Hey everyone, welcome to the reading of all the updates to Dee's journal from Chapter 8 in Bravely Default. Starting with updates to Barris. In the Fifth World, though orders to fall back to the Duchy had been sent out across the lands, the Sky Knights pounced on us as though they were waiting for us. With Holly to heal Barris' wounds as he was hit, and Henkel to guard his flanks, Barris was able to unleash the full force of his fury. A frenetic battle ensued. The 49th floor of Central Command was protected by an elite melee force led by Dark Knight Altinus Dim. With the melee attacks of Barris and the axe blows of Captain Barbarossa, enhanced by the songs of Praline, diva of the battlefield, each strike landed with pummeling force. We bested them after a harrowing battle, and they duly let us past. Updates to Holly. In the Fifth World, it seemed the order had been given to fall back to defend Eternia, but the Sky Knights gathered at Lontano Villa as though waiting in ambush for us. In previous worlds, the White Mage Holly seemed to fight with less enthusiasm than the monk Barris, but here she thirsted for battle. The 48th floor of Central Command was guarded by a formidable defense under Swordmaster Kamiizumi. The ninja Kikyo warned of our approach, her hand gripped by the White Mage Holly, who seemed close to tears for some reason. She looked truly ravishing. We won the battle that followed, and everyone seemed in good spirits. Updates to Ominous. In the Fifth World, the Sky Knights awaited us at Lontano Villa while preparing to fall back to the Duchy. A 4-on-4 battle commenced. With a solid defense protecting him, Ominous's powerful black magic had us reeling. In the end, though, he was first aboard the airship that came to evacuate them. The passage on the 49th floor of Central Command was guarded by a unit specializing in magic. This odd band, including Sage Oriana, was led by none other than the black mage Ominous Crow. Pestered by the summoner Mephilia, he showed little leadership. But in battle, he more than held his ground with searing attacks aided by the Salvemaker Kata and the others. Updates to Henkel. In the Fifth World, the Sky Knights were ordered to fall back and defend the Duchy. We arrived as they were preparing to depart, and they set upon us with great fury. Henkel seemed particularly eager for battle, putting his duties as captain aside and enjoying the skirmish as a simple warrior. Afterwards, he said he'd give us another working over soon, then left. The 48th floor of Central Command was guarded by a formidable defense under Swordmaster Kamiizumi. At first, the mood was light, but in battle, the dark sword flashed, wielded by the former commander of the Duchy's elite guard. We emerged victorious, but that is one fight I don't want to repeat. Updates to Rihanna. In the Fifth World, we were about to battle Lord De Rosa on the top floor of Vampire Castle when Sage Oriana showed up. He acted as cordially as ever, but we could not help trembling in fear. Lord De Rosa laughed and asked him not to ruin his castle. I don't think he was joking. After giving us a taste of his godlike power, he grew bored and went home. Our way through the passage on the 49th floor of Central Command was blocked by a company of mages. We first thought them led by Sage Oriana, but his hands were busy tormenting the summoner Mephilia. When the battle began, it was our turn to be tormented by his insanely powerful attacks. An update to Altinus. The 49th floor of Central Command was guarded by a melee-focused unit led by Altinus Dim, my former self, who concealed his identity to serve under the Templar. With each sword strike, my memories of the past became clearer. We both sought the same thing, to protect those we love. Thus, I defeated one who shared my goals, and vowed to continue on. Updates to Jackal. At the Palace in Ansheimer in the Fifth World, we encountered members of the merchantry, including the Jackal. Something seemed odd as he seemed to respect his bodyguard more than the king, whom he referred to as Old Man TikTok. Before we knew it, they were upon us. We bested them in the struggle, and they abandoned Ansheim, heading to the Duchy in an airship. The elevator to the 47th floor of Central Command was guarded by Eternian Vanguard forces, led by Erotus Profiteer, Merchant of Death. We faced a tough fight, as he used his wealth to provide the Jackal and the Valkyrie Anhyria with ample BP to execute their powerful attacks. However, we exploited the slight gap in their teamwork to win the fight. Updates to Profiteer. In the Fifth World, the King of Ansheim seemed willing to give up his kingdom for the sake of the Duchy. He threatened to seize the assets of Profiteer, who disagreed with the order to fall back to Eternia. Seeing us, Profiteer launched a desperate attack, but we defeated him and he lost all. The king talked it back into boarding an airship, which promptly set out for Eternia. Profiteer, the Merchant of Death, led an Eternian Vanguard force guarding the elevator to the 47th floor of Central Command. He used his wealth to buy BP for Anhyria and the Jackal to unleash countless attacks, creating a force of terrifying power. We exploited small gaps in the teamwork to eke out a hard-fought victory. Updates to Kint. In the Fifth World, we found the members of the merchantry gathered at the palace in Anshheim. Profiteer took up arms against us, but we fended off the attack. Before withdrawing to the duchy, Kint told us he was eager to meet us on the field of battle again, displaying the honor of a true warrior. The way to the council chamber at Central Command was guarded by a force specializing in inflicting ailments, led by the Arcanist Victoria. It consisted of some of Eternia's quirkier fighters, with the reticent Sigma Kint being one of the more tolerable among their number. He fought with complete devotion, and saw us off with a look of satisfaction on his face when the battle ended. Updates to Kamer. In the Fifth World, the members of the merchantry had gathered at the palace in Anshheim. It seems the king and Profiteer could not agree on whether to obey the duchy's orders. Following a battle, the king eagerly boarded his airship. Believing in the anti-crystalism cause espoused by the duchy, he was willing to abandon his kingdom in order to defend Eternia. Brave the Templar made his last stand in the chambers of the Council of Six at Eternian Central Command. Kamer, a believer in the anti-crystalist ideals that Brave pursued, was in high spirits at having the honor of fighting at his side. Kamer provided support through his time magic and rained down meteors whenever an opening appeared, making for an extremely challenging battle. An update to Victoria. The way to the council chamber at Central Command was guarded by a force specializing in inflicting ailments, led by the Arcanist Victoria. She was in the company of the duchy's more unique characters, including Lord De Rosso, the Red Mage De Rosa, and the Spell Fencer Kint. She led them decisively and fought to the end, without suffering any seizures. An update to Victor. Brave the Templar made his last stand in the chambers of the Council of Six at Eternian Central Command. He was accompanied by an old man with a strange piece of metal on his head, and a girl in beast form. Victor oversaw the battle with a look of cool disdain. When he fell, our victory was sealed. An update to Artemia. In the Fifth World, we found members of the Bloodrose Legion gathered at the secret lab in Florum. The Valkyrie Anheria seemed exasperated with the Red Mage De Rosa, who commands the Legion. Before we knew it, her youngest sister Artemia had slowly knocked an arrow and loosed it at us. A battle ensued, after which they all headed back to the duchy. The air cleared. Brave the Templar made his last stand in the chambers of the Council of Six at Eternian Central Command. In addition to the key figures, Brave, Victor, and Kamer VIII, there was a lone girl among them. With formidable support on her side, Artemia was free to shine on the battlefield. She displayed great valor and skill with the bow. An update to Mephilia. In the Fifth World, we found members of the Bloodrose Legion gathered at the secret lab in Florum. The battle-hungry ranger Artemia took up arms against us, while the summoner Mephilia kept an eye on her sisters, and seemed to enjoy the fight greatly. When the battle was over, the sisters joined hands, while the others scurried away. The passage on the 49th floor of Central Command was guarded by a force of casters led by the Black Mage Ominous. The summoner Mephilia used her abundant power and full range of summoning spells to batter us, serving as the main source of firepower. The battlefield became a sea of flames, and though we prevailed, the whole area was left a charred mess. Updates to Anheria. In the Fifth World, we found members of the Bloodrose Legion gathered at the secret lab in Florum. The Valkyrie Anheria seemed exasperated with her commander De Rosa, and confiscated a small vial from him. Artemia then took up arms against us, triggering a heated battle led by the Swordmaster's beloved disciple Anheria. The elevator to the 47th floor of Central Command was guarded by Eternian Vanguard forces, led by Rotus Profiteer, Merchant of Death. He gave the Valkyrie Anheria and the thieving Jackal abundant BP, and their attacks were merciless. It was a tough fight, but we exploited small gaps in Anheria and the Jackal's teamwork to prevail in the end. Updates to Fiore De Rosa. In the Fifth World, we found members of the Bloodrose Legion gathered at the secret lab in Florum. Their leader De Rosa was quarreling with the Venus sisters for some reason, but he turned their wrath upon us instead. They fled after the battle, and we were left nauseated by the acrid smell of perfume and liquor that permeated the air of the lab. The way to the council chamber at Central Command was guarded by the ailment-focused force led by the Arcanist Victoria. Compared to Lord De Rosso or the duchy's more powerful mages, their calculating Red Mage De Rosa who corrupted Florum from within seemed little more than a petty middle-aged crook. His vulgar laugh in the face of defeat only punctuated his villainous nature. An update to Kami Izumi. In the Fifth World, as Starkfort prepared to evacuate after hearing of the duchy's orders, it was attacked by a host of 50,000 shield-bearers. Swordmaster Kami Izumi held them off with a force of just 100 soldiers, and intercepted us as we launched a raid on the Swordbearer headquarters. After a ferocious battle, he calmly set off for his home soil, leaving us amazed. The 48th floor of Central Command was guarded by a formidable defense under Swordmaster Kami Izumi. He had the complete trust of Brave the Templar, and assembled a stalwart team who he could rely on to carry out his orders perfectly. All those there fought without a care for who won or lost, desiring only to battle on. An update to Barbarossa. In the Fifth World, We used a great host of shield bearers as a distraction to raid the sword bearers' headquarters. Inside, we clashed with Captain Barbarossa and other Black Blades, who seemed to have been waiting for us. Barbarossa led a coordinated effort that left us exhausted. When Swordmaster Kami Izumi arrived, the battle intensified further. The 49th floor of Central Command was guarded by an elite melee force led by Dark Knight Altinus Dim. Barbarossa and the other melee specialists were powerful enough on their own, but they came at us with their abilities enhanced by the songs of Praline, diva of the battlefield. We prevailed after an intense struggle, and our spirited opponents let us pass. Updates to Kata. In the Fifth World, the Black Blades had been ordered back to their home country. With the shield bearers mounting a large counteroffensive, we launched an assault on Starkfort. Kata appeared to be rushed off his feet, making room for returning soldiers and the wounded. He supported Barbarossa until the Swordmaster's arrival, then they set off back to the duchy. Our way through the passage on the 49th floor of Central Command was blocked by some of the duchy's most skilled casters. Kata played a support role, supplying raw magical power and healing to the other three, while targeting us with debilitating spells. Staring into the conflagration he had caused, Kata wore a grin much like that of the pyromaniac Ominous. Updates to Praline. In the Fifth World, the duchy issued orders to fall back, and the shield bearers gave chase. The Black Blades and the sword bearers were cornered. We raided Starkfort, and were met by Praline and other Black Blades. The voice that had held Eisenbridge alone echoed out, and all of a sudden her companions were filled with vigor. Praline sang on until we finally defeated them. On the 49th floor of Central Command, we faced off against an elite melee force. Altinus, Barris, and Barbarossa, stalwart members of the duchy's forces, were filled with power by the songs of Praline, diva of the battlefield. Praline shone in the spotlight, doing her part for the defense of her homeland. Updates to Konoe Kikyo. In the Fifth World, the Black Blades were ordered to withdraw. Word got out, and a host of 50,000 shield bearers marched on Starkfort. The Black Blades got away, but I later heard the intelligence and counterintelligence efforts were led by Konoe Kikyo on the sword bearer's side, while Officer Norio led her shield bearer counterparts. The 48th floor of Central Command was guarded by a formidable defense led by Swordmaster Kami Izumi. When we arrived, a calm atmosphere seemed to surround the ninja Kikyo, but I was too quick to judge. She unleashed fierce attacks in the battle that followed, holding nothing back. It seemed as if she was fighting with newfound vigor. Update to Brave. We once again found Brave the Templar's forces in the chambers of the Council of Six at Eternian Central Command. Each blow felt both harsh and purposeful. The stalwart band before us was here to push us to our limits, so we'd be ready to defeat our ultimate foe. After the battle, the Templar told us we could return anytime we wished. Updates to DeRosso. In the Fifth World, we prepared to face off against Lord DeRosso on the top floor of Vampire Castle. We were shocked to see Sage Juliana appear and join the fray. We weathered blow after blow from these historic figures of Luxendark. Before we knew it, the sage was gone, and DeRosso stood before us laughing. We had won. The way to the council chamber at Central Command was guarded by an ailment-inflicting force led by the Arcanist Victoria. Lord DeRosso was aghast at the twisted minds gathered there. He believed the assignment to be reprisal from the Templar, who he so often ignored. His annoyance only fed his will to win, and he pounced on us with a steely look in his eyes.